Two, count them, two continuing resolutions have now failed in the House, with congressional Republicans first being threatened and on the cusp of giving in because the media says that they will blame them for the impending shutdown as we go into Christmas for this. And then for maybe the first time in my adult life, congressional Republicans looked back at the government media apparatus and gave them the finger. In an instance that I like to call a discontinuing resolution, we're going to go over all of the news, including two stories that popped up on my news feed as we were live. So we'll go over some of that. I have to get them transferred from Google Chrome over to Brave so we can put them up on the stack. We'll talk about what's going on with that, what's happening there, and what we might be talking about at Christmas. This is going to be interesting. And in other news, Benny Willis has been removed from the Georgia RICO case, saying that she is not qualified to serve on that case based on her inappropriate relationship with Nathan Wade. CNN is taking this about as well as you'd expect them to. So we will talk about that, what's happening there, and where we go with that. It is going to be all of that, plus a plethora of news that we did not get to on Tuesday because, well, everything was pouring out of my nose at once. So you didn't want to see that, I didn't want to see that, and you could barely understand my voice anyway. So strap yourselves in, find some friends, grab some food, and join me for this special edition of Contemporary. And we will see you on the other side of the title card. And oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared, and the soul felt its worth. I am J. Edgar, and this is Contemporary. I see my friend Yujin Vong got a little bit excited for the Skyward Sword music. I actually am, because I've been doing just some playtesting and sampling, and I know that you've yelled and talked about the fact that I need to go motion controls with Skyward Sword. When they ported that for Switch for the HD version, which is the version that I'm going to be playing when I go on stream with it, they actually made the hand controls very intuitive. this is going to be an enjoyable game. I can already tell you. I'm looking forward to it. I kind of wish that I would have finished off BioShock last night, which I looked up the spoiler. I was so frustrated by this. I walked past the password 9 times, and I didn't realize it was there. Just so you know, I know exactly where it was now. So, I almost said the hell with the news tonight and said, hey, let's do that instead because, like, seriously, I want to get this game finished so I can move on to the next one. I like the game, I do, and I'm looking forward to playing BioShock 2 somewhere in the near future, but for now, I want to move on to a different game and play something Nintendo first party, especially since it's come with such high recommendations. But we are here for the news. Thank you, everybody who is going to join me tonight on a night that is not a regular contemporary night. Reminder, especially if you go back and listen to the audio platform, which is up, and the YouTube platform just hit YouTube tonight. Like, you can hear a little bit of tang coming from the back of my nose right now. And I can hear it, I can feel a little bit too. I might have to stop and blow my nose again while we're doing this here, but it's not what it was on Tuesday night. I was stopping every 30 seconds, I felt like, to just go and blow my nose again. I mean, that's not a quality show for you guys. And I'm glad that I'm glad that my sickness pushed me out. I am. Because holy shit, the last 48 hours in news and politics it's incredible. I've never seen anything like this in my life, and I have been watching politics like a hawk since Romney and Obama were running against each other. That's when I first started noticing that the government doesn't have our best interests at heart, and I've been looking for, things to try to point people in a different direction of, hey, let's move away from these people because they literally fucking hate us. And I've never seen anything like this. That's been 12 years. At this point. So, anyway, we've got a lot to go over here tonight. Plus, all the stuff, by the way, that we didn't get to on Tuesday night. So, we're going to be going at it for that, that's for sure. But a lot of stuff to start with it's not the budget, it's continuing resolution, the government shutdown that's looming. We've got a lot to go over with that. So, if you like what you see, do chat in the live chat. That is, by the way, all your YouTuber people, tell you like, share, and subscribe, and those things do help. I'll give you that. The best thing you can do for your favorite creator is chat in his live chat. The more chat that gets generated there, the better off that person is going to do. Now, they get promoted up to the front page because of just viewership in and of itself. So you lurkers, I see you and I'm thankful for you. But the more chat that they get, that's how they rate the interaction and how much, quote, fun people are having. And how to kind of make sure that you're not getting botted as you go. So tell me what you think about what you see here. Definitely looking forward to all of this here. Yes, I know it was Christmas music during Advent. I don't care. I like the song. And I've been doing this for this entire season, ever since December started too. Ever since Black Friday I've been doing this. So I'm a little bit surprised that you're just finding out about it now. Let's get down into the news. Before we do get started, make sure you guys check out great programming such as the Daily Ignoramus and Stephen Ignoramus Music. I'll have more details for that coming in the near future. And go check out Overruled with Katie Zed. That's an awesome time. A friend of the show. I am starting to line up guests for Ed Talk, but with a major life change that's going to be happening in the next few weeks, I probably will not be back to that project until February. It's sad because I love doing it. It's very de-stressing. I enjoy it. But yeah, there's going to be some cool stuff coming with that. Even though it's not on video, I mean, there's going to be a lot of accommodations for that. There's a lot of stuff happening around here right now. Let's get into the news. Let's get started. We're going to start with some live updates for the day from the Hill because 44 minutes ago, Mike Johnson's Plan B has failed. So we're going to talk about what happened there and why. Let's see. Let's check in here. Integrity Man, that's a new name. Welcome, Integrity Man. Tell us how you found the channel and enjoy your stay. I'm doing well. Just finishing out my day at work, getting hyped for the government shutdown. Integrity says I haven't been paying attention to the news, but a government shutdown sounds like we're in for some interesting shenanigans. Alright. With The Hill with live updates from thehill.com. Funding bill Plan B fails as shutdown deadline looms. Prediction right now, they're not going to make it. And the worst part of a government shutdown, Dual Helix has joined us over on Rumble, by the way. The worst part of a government shutdown is they're going to open the fucking thing back up. They're going to open it back up. That's what I think about them opening it back up. The House rejected a Republican plan to stave off a government shutdown on Thursday, hours after the GOP members crafted a new spending proposal and President-elect Trump endorsed it. The first plan, bipartisan effort, went down in flames when it was opposed by many members and Trump. Ahead of the vote, Democrats called the GOP plan laughable. Speaker Johnson's handling of the end-of-the-year spending deal has thrown the future in uncertain territory ahead of a critical January 3rd Speaker vote. Now, we'll talk about that a little bit separately because I have some things to talk about with that too. That is a very, very big no-win situation. Dual Helix says I need a house plant. Well, that's going to first border on me getting a house. Because of the nature of my privacy and not telling people about where I live, that's as far as that comment's going to go. But, well, take out of context what you will for that. The people who need to know. That's all I'm going to say about that. Ahead of the vote, Democrats called the GOP plan laughable. Mike Johnson's handling of the end-of-the-year spending deal has thrown this future into uncertain territory. Ahead of the critical January 3rd Speaker vote, I know about that, Trump expects his support for the new deal, calling for lawmakers to vote in favor of the funding stopgap, which omits certain language regarding a Congress pay raise and other measures. John Thune, it's back to the drawing board. Incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune indicated that the ball is still in the court of the House Republicans after a second proposal to extend government funding floundered in a vote on the floor ahead of that, and they must figure out how to move forward ahead of Friday night's deadline. Now, Helix, think about this for just a second. I need to get a house before I get a house plant. And that's all the farther I'm going to put this right now, but I also mentioned very, very big life changes. So, take out of context what you will for that. And actually, I own a large number of houseplants already. It's just because of the pitching of this stupid closet that I live in, and where the sun rises and sets, which is over there where there's no fucking windows. They are all at my mom's house because she has a big, big southern exposure window. And they like the sunlight from that. And that'll probably be the same until about sometime the next month. Integrity says, your channel came up on my feed. It's nice to find someone simply reporting about the news and current affairs that doesn't seem to be pushing an agenda. Yeah, I am full out anti-government. I'm not a Republican. I mean, you should have seen me a year ago well, not at this time because I'd already chopped my hair at this time, but like a year ago, full ponytail. It's still a little bit fucking chunky up top, but full ponytail, full beard, everything else. I have some conservative leanings, but I don't trust the government to do anything, so that's where I'm at with that. Somebody jump on Rumble and explain to Dual Helix what's going on in my life that's in the know. Palm installed Twitch on the TV. I didn't know you could do that with a Roku. Because I tried to put, there's a, like you guys can't see it from where the camera is, but there's a TV right there that's got a Roku Express to that. And I tried to install Twitch to that for one of Cat Pants' charity streams actually, and it told me to go and F myself. My Fire Stick has Twitch installed to it. So Amazon, well, Amazon owns Twitch, so that actually doesn't surprise me at all. But my Roku couldn't do that. That must be a new thing. So, alright. Going back to this. Got a lot of live chat going here. I guess it's back to the drawing board. Thune told the Hill as he exited the Capitol. We'll see. We'll figure out a house, what they want to do next, and they'll digest this last effort and see what Plan B is. Johnson, Republicans will regroup after bill failed. Mike Johnson told reporters that Republicans will regroup and come up with another solution after his proposal to fund the government and suspend the debt limit failed on the House floor. Fucking good, by the way. We'll talk more about that and things that I hate. Stay tuned, he added. What is a Pi computer doodle? I'm going to look that up, by the way, after stream. Johnson, on his way from the House chamber to his office, blamed Democrats for torpedoing his proposal. No shit, Sherlock. Very disappointing to all of us that all but 2 Democrats voted against aid to farmers and ranchers. Fuck you too, by the way, because you have to have that buried deep inside a continuing resolution with a butt ton of other government funding and other bullshit to it. Fuck you for not putting that as a standalone bill. Yeah, I know what a Raspberry Pi is. I am, by the way, one of the things when I do move is I want to do some Raspberry Pi projects because I've looked up stuff like that. It's just, again, having the space to do so and having a little bit of time to do so as well. I think there's some really interesting stuff, and I can make an old retro video game computer. Alright, anyway, keep going. The speaker continued, arguing it was really irresponsible for Congress to risk a shutdown over the legislation that includes some provisions from the bipartisan and bicameral proposal unveiled earlier this week. There are, however, stark differences between the two, such as the inclusions of a 2-year debt limit suspension and the exclusion of other provisions. Yeah, tell Helix what I've been stepping around when I say that I don't need a house plant until I get a house. And that's all the farther I'm going to go with that. Anyway, that's our live updates for this. From Axios. House rejects GOP funding bill and major blow to Mike Johnson. From Aaron Doherty and Andrew Solender. The U.S. House failed to pass a bill to extend federal funding on Thursday night, just a day before the government is set to shut down. The spending measure's demise prolongs a chaotic fight that has seen House Speaker Mike Johnson forced to repeatedly change tactics. The Trump-backed bill failed to garner the necessary 2/3 majority, with more than 36 Republicans and nearly all Democrats opposing it. The level of GOP opposition signals Republican leaders will have difficulty trying to bring it up under another process. The final vote was 235 members voting against the bill and 174 voting in favor, with 38 Republicans voting against the measure and 2 Democrats voting in support. Johnson initially cut a deal with Democratic leaders on a nearly 1,550-page bill to extend government funding until March 14th. The bill was packed with bipartisan legislative priorities, including disaster relief, farm aid, and a pay raise for members of Congress. Johnson then scrambled to rewrite the bill, cutting several provisions and attacking on a 2-year debt ceiling extension that Trump demanded. Democrats emerged from a closed-door meeting Thursday uniformly opposed to the bill and furious at Republicans for going back on the initial deal. To to come back with this proposal, which demolishes loads of significant things that were in the agreement. It is an affront and an insult, especially because they didn't even consult our leadership, said Jamie Raskin. The revised bill was also insufficient for some conservative deficit hawks, with Chip Roy among the bill's opponents. We've got a speech from Chip Roy coming off of this, so this is a developing story. These were the two things that we had to catch up on for this. Let's talk a little bit about the bill, starting with this one here. Anna Polina Luna, talking about the initial bill. Much to our horror, they have buried over $100 million in disaster relief funding, much of it going to Pinellas, in a massive CR. This is a sneaky mega omnibus in disguise. This should have been a standalone bill, but they chose to hold us hostage instead. And that is the thing with all of these bills and all these big omnibus packages, the things that Republicans voted no against and everything else, is that they bury things like, oh, well, our disaster relief has to be inside of this. Our farm aid has to be inside of this. Republicans hate farm aid because they're voting against this bloated spending package that has 10 billion things that they don't want in them. So they must just hate farm aid. That's why they're voting against this thing. They did this with the last one, too. They're talking about education and a bunch of other things. And it was all, well, Republicans hate this because they voted against this spending bill. The stupidest fucking one. And the one that they love to cite right now has to do with the fact, remember the what they call the bipartisan border bill? Republicans didn't want to pass the bipartisan border bill because it gave Trump something to run on. They're mustache-twirling villains. Never mind the fact that in the midst of this bill, what was it? What did it wind up being? Almost $900 billion between Israel and Ukraine for aid. And a plethora of other provisions that they wanted to vote against. But just at the top, the border section of this bill didn't start until the 300th page. I read that bill cover to cover, by the way. 300 pages of legalese explaining why we are sending money and what the money is going to be used for when it goes to the Ukraine and Israel. And past 300 pages, you start talking about all these stupid provisions for the border, which were no better, by the way, when it got shot down because of aid for Ukraine. Well, Republicans just want to keep the border open so Donald Trump has something to run on because he's evil Donald Trump. Christmas weed. Now there's an interesting thought. Jessica L. Smith, with a reply on this one, says, stop enabling this bullshit and vote no. Their aid doesn't help anyone anyway. It goes to NGOs who pay themselves fat salaries and spread the money among their friends. We will pull together and help each other. Enough already. And by the way, there was some wild stuff in this bill. I think the one that really pissed the people off at this point was the fact that Congress had approved a 69% pay raise for themselves. That was in this bill. It made them exempt from having to go into the ACA marketplace and participate in that. In fact, their insurance funds were held separate from anything ACA because of this bill, which was how it was to begin with too, but one of the past continuing resolutions forced them onto the exchanges. It made them immune from criminal prosecutions, blanket across all of Congress. It made them immune from subpoenas, blanket across Congress. So there is a bunch of wild shit in this bill. Just absolute craziness. So yes, they needed to vote no. Heather 007, who is at Liberty Valkyrie, says Congress wants a $68,000 raise, but hasn't passed a budget on time since Clinton was in office, and they haven't had a balanced budget since '01, the W years. In the last 6 years alone, they passed 17 continuing resolutions and 11 omnibuses. It's our money. Do you think they deserve a raise? Let's listen.
Did you know that since 1977, Congress has only passed the budget on time 4 times? You know, the last time Congress passed a balanced budget was in 2001. Did you know that over the last 6 years, Congress hasn't passed an appropriations bill on time once? In fact, we have had 17 continuing resolutions in the last 6 years. And since Biden has taken office, we have had over 11 omnibuses pushed through. Congress has only passed a balanced budget 4 times ever, meaning we didn't have a surplus or a deficit. Yet the government office that has the power of the purse somehow thinks that they are entitled to give themselves a raise from $175,000 to $243,000. Roughly 68 grand, which is more than what the average American makes in 1 year.
That's more than I make in a year, by the way.
So while our military sergeants, an E5 on average, is getting a raise of 4.5%, giving them an additional $2,100 a year, Congress thinks that they can get a raise of almost 39%. So while that staff sergeant has an extra $40 a week, your congressman will have an extra $1,300 a week, will continue to pass continuing resolutions instead of balanced on-time budgets, and continue wasting our tax dollars. No to the CR.
No to the CR indeed. And by the way, I know that our friends on the left will run back with what I'm about to say and say, but the government isn't a business. If any private business ran themselves that way, needing to come back and basically appropriate and beg for money to make budget and then still come up short every year, that business would be out of business. Like somebody else would have bought that business. Tommy Tuberville. This is not a CR, it's an omnibus packed with irresponsible and unnecessary spending. The American people demanded a change on November 5th. Unfortunately, Congress didn't get the message. We must oppose the out-of-control spending that has dominated Washington for too long. Hello, Base Department.
Merry Christmas, American taxpayer. We're going to buy you a Corvette. Now, you can't pay for it for 100 years, but we're going to buy you a Corvette. It's absolutely ridiculous of what we're doing here. We should get a clean CR. Mike Johnson promised that. The 2 things that we really need, though, is we need help for American farmer because the farm bill has been kicked down the road for 2 years. Maria, we're going to lose 50,000 farms in the next probably 6 months, 50,000 more, and we lost 150,000 in the last 3 or 4 years. And then, of course, the disaster aid for North Carolina, the Biden administration absolutely has dropped the ball on this. But to go out and building stadiums in D.C., hell, they can't even cut the grass in the medians up here. It's a disaster.
Unbelievable. What?
Merry Christmas, American taxpayer. We're going to buy you a Corvette. Now, you can't pay for it.
You can't pay for it for 100 years, but we're going to buy it for you. So good on that. Let's grab one from the USA Today. Shutdown more and more likely. House rejects Trump back to deal to keep the government running. I'm going to go briefly off this because, well, I've already predicted the government shutdown, and I'm going to opine on this a little bit, but let's grab what the USA Today has to say for this. From Savannah Kuchar, lawmakers have rejected a deal backed by Trump to fund large parts of the U.S. government, making a partial shutdown appear all but inevitable. Heading into the end of year holidays and with the transition of power in the White House just a month away. The House voted 235 to 174 to reject the spending bill, where 2/3 of the chamber was needed for passage. 38 Republicans joined 197 Democrats in opposing the bill. House Republicans had hurried to craft a new CR, or temporary means to keep things up and running, on Thursday after the original bipartisan agreement was torpedoed by Trump and allies Elon and Vivek. Current government funding expires at the end of the day on Friday. Mike Johnson spent hours on Thursday behind closed doors meeting with other lawmakers and hammering out the pared-down bill, absent several of the provisions that had upset many in his caucus. However, some Republicans remain unpersuaded, while Democrats, angered by Johnson's scrapping of the previous bipartisan agreement, said, "Hell no." Yeah, Hakeem Jeffries has been running his fucking mouth, especially. Extreme MAGA Republicans are driving us to a government shutdown, said Hakeem Jeffries, who called the new bill laughable. Why? Because you don't get everything that you want? This is the hardest part of this, by the way, and they do this constantly. I was talking to Palm about this when I found out about the fact that we were set to run out of money on Friday. We were talking about this on Monday while we were driving together. We were taking a trip together. And I pointed this out. This is how they do it. Now, this has big provisions that Democrats are going to hammer, and the media are going to hammer Republicans on, like the farm aid bill, like the aid for North Carolina, the aid for Florida, and places like that, etc. Although Florida doesn't need a whole lot of aid right now. But they're going to hammer on them for voting against those things while it's packed with things like their own pay raise, their exemption from subpoenas, their exemption from the ACA, vaccine mandates, mask mandates, and a host of other things that didn't need to be into any of this here. But then they use this, and they constantly use this. They run up to the line. Like, they've been... Thomas Massey pointed out, it was September, by the way, not October. I was wrong on that one, Palm. It was September when they went back and they passed this continuing resolution to run until the lame duck session. So that if things didn't go the way the Biden admin wanted, then they could turn around and just, okay, here's our spending priorities. Let's cram all this in here as fast as we can to get our spending done, because we're not going to have another 4 years to do it. That was the reason that we did this into December, by the way. But then they come up at the edge of the line, which they've been crafting this bill since September already. But they come up at the edge of the line saying, the government's going to shut down. Government workers are not going to get their paychecks. They'll be furloughed. All non-essential personnel, which I don't know why we have non-essential personnel, they're not going to be able to go to work. They're not going to get paid. They'll get all their back pay. That's the funniest part, because they'll get all their back pay for the times that they didn't get the paycheck, which is why a lot of mortgage lenders, landlords, etc., car payments, will usually give them a little bit of a slide on something like that. They'll get all that pay back, but they won't have the money for the Christmas holiday. What are they going to do? We're going to go into the holiday and these people are going to be laid off. What are we going to do? Oh my God, we have to pass this. Don't even read it. Here's 1,500 pages. Let's just sign it. We're at the deadline. We're at the very last second. Hurry. What do you think of these people? You don't hate the government enough. The most recent government shutdown in the U.S. also came during the holiday season and turned into the longest in history under the first Trump admin. It lasted 35 days from December of 2018 into January of 2019. Under a shutdown, all government services that are not deemed essential, think the U.S. Postal Service or Social Security, which, no, the U.S. Postal Service is essential because it's constitutional, will halt. National parks will close. Nobody will care. The only thing that you'll notice is that some places around the mall, especially the war memorials, will get fencing put up around them, and then people will stop cleaning the bathrooms at Yellowstone. Not that you're really going there in the middle of January anyway. But even still, you're in a national park, pee on a tree. And government food assistance benefits will be delayed in their repayment to the states. Your state benefits will still be there. Just a reminder of that. So that's where we're at with this. Let's listen to Mike Johnson on Newsmax, of all places. Mike Johnson trying to make his plea to just let my spending plan go. Let's listen.
This was the conservative play call. We don't normally like what's called a continuing resolution, a CR, but in this case it makes sense because if we push it into the first quarter of next year, then we have a Republican-controlled Congress and President Donald J. Trump back in the White House will be able to have more say over the funding decisions for 2025. Now, that would have been an easier thing to do, but then we had circumstances outside of our control. We had these emergencies that are required. So we had, as you know, a record hurricane season. We had Helene and Milton, and they just did massive destruction across our red states, frankly, in the southeast and the eastern side of the country. And then we've had farmers who are in jeopardy of permanently going under. They've had 3 lost years in a row because of Bidenomics and inflation and other circumstances outside of their control. And so when you cobble those two things together, there's a desperate need for that aid, and that's what adds another $100+ billion to the bill, and that's why everybody's uncomfortable with it. I am too. We have a massive deficit and debt problem, of course, in this country. We can begin to address that and shrink the size and scope of government in January with Republican control, but we've got to bridge the gap to get there, and we cannot leave our small farms and ranchers and our people who are devastated by the hurricanes out in the meantime. So that's the difficult part about this. That's what people are really struggling with, and I am too, but we have a responsibility here, and that's legislative.
Please, just vote on this. We can't go to the holidays like this. We'll just decide fiscal year spending in March. Just let us keep this open. The fight for the speakership is an interesting position. Now, I do think that Mr. Johnson should be retired at this point. He served his purpose. He sucked. And I told you he was going to suck, by the way. I told you outright he was going to suck. But he's served his purpose. It's time for him to go and move on. But it's also interesting because you have to get every single member of the GOP on board to vote him in at this point. And I don't think you've got it. They can lose one vote, a single vote, and that is it. Johnson considered a plan B, but that one's dead in the water, so we can skip that. I put that article up before I found the two that we started with. Here's an interesting thought. Elon Musk agrees there should be a law that all bills introduced in Congress should be digitally accessible to the public at least 7 days before any vote in Congress. Now, they are all digitally available before you vote on them, but because of the length of many of them and the legalese, there aren't a lot of people who get to sit down and read them, and plus there's a regular lack of interest that goes with this as well. And this is with Elon, who got himself doped up to the fucking eyeballs on ketamine, which he has a prescription for, and downloaded the 1,500-page boondoggle and read the whole goddamn thing. As far as the rest of it, 4chan picked the rest of it apart from the rest of us and put it out into small, bite-sized chunks of the stuff that, well, didn't have to be in there in the first place. So thank you to that. But yes, everything should be accessible to the public at least 7 days, so you can phone your representative and say, hey, don't do this, or hey, do this, please. I'm okay with that. That would be a good compromise to having no government. Is to actually have people to have the ability to be more involved, and then if they don't get involved, that's their own stupidity. Ducey from Fox News. Every member of Congress has an X account. They can record a video and talk about how they're against this outrageous spending, but will they? Probably very few. Because, well, there aren't very many of them who are against it. Let's listen.
This is every single member of Congress has an X account. They can record a video with their phone and talk about how they individually are against all of this outrageous spending. This is every single member of Congress.
But they won't. Again, a few of them will. Here's Hakeem Jeffries demanding that you pay him more for doing, well, nothing.
Holiday travel will be impacted. The ability of everyday Americans to visit their family, their friends, their loved ones will be impacted. Holiday travel will be impacted. The ability of...
Well, that just to me tells me that the government has too much involvement in travel. And as far as the TSA goes, I mean, it might be time for that just to disappear as it is. When's the last time they actually found a bomb? More Jeffries. Jeffries, the Musk-Johnson proposal is not serious. It's laughable. Extreme MAGA Republicans are driving us to a government shutdown, with Elon Musk responding, first of all, I'm not the author of this proposal. Credit to Trump, Vance, and Johnson. Second, this is a much better bill that's closer to being real, continuing resolution, not an omnibus masquerading as a CR, but with the support for hurricane victims and farmers. As well as a reasonable extension of the debt ceiling, clean and simple. If Devons reject this government shutdown, they deserve to lose big time in the midterms. Here's a question, by the way. And this goes out to all of our GOP, MAGA America First people that are complaining about this. Why don't you have a bill on the table right now for the disaster relief funding, for the farm bill? Mike Johnson is the one who's sitting here writing out these CRs and including them in there. Why don't you just do a clean one-line bill funding these objects, these things that you have on your wish list? I mean, you've got time. That is one of the big questions that I have for the government is, why isn't this getting proposed? It's in the news. So then you'll have a bunch of people on record who will probably deny it because it doesn't have all their wish list things in there. But then they'll be on the record actually denying relief for the hurricane victims, relief for the farmers. Let's listen.
The Musk-Johnson proposal.
Apologize for being so
Not
quiet.
serious. It's laughable. Extreme MAGA Republicans are driving us to a government shutdown.
Do you see a world in which you might regret not agreeing with the clean debt?
All right. Chip Roy, by the way, now has a fiery speech apparently. I've not listened to the speech yet, so we'll be listening to this for the first time together. Clint Russell, friend of the show, says Chip Roy just lit the house on fire with his speech. I challenge you to listen to it and then tell me he's in the wrong. Well, challenge accepted, Clint. Let's see what's there. Let's put your money where your mouth is.
I was just texting with my son back home in Austin, who I haven't seen in quite a long time because I'm here trying to fight for him. When I got through cancer about 12 years ago, I made my promise to my kids that I would do everything I can to save this country. And what we're doing right now is to continue to double down on the things that are destroying the republic. We are going to increase the debt ceiling, not just $4 trillion, that's false. We have spent $4.7 trillion in additional debt in the last 19 months. We're going to increase the debt by $5 trillion. That's what's going to happen right here by Republicans, increasing the debt $5 trillion. And what are you doing in the same bill? $110 billion unpaid for. Because you never have any ounce of self-respect to go out and campaign saying you're going to balance the budget, and then you come in here and pass $110 billion unpaid for. On top of the $200 billion you did for WEP, you guys won't agree with that, but the fact of the matter is $330 billion. Congratulations, you've added to the debt since you were given the majority again on November 5th. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. Yes, I think this bill is better than it was yesterday on certain respects, but to take this bill yesterday and congratulate yourself because it's shorter in pages, but increases the debt by $5 trillion is asinine. And that's precisely what Republicans are doing. I am absolutely sickened by a party that campaigns on fiscal responsibility and has the temerity to go forward to the American people and say, you think this is fiscally responsible. It is absolutely ridiculous. It also turns off PAYGO. It turns off the $1.7 trillion in automatic cuts under PAYGO. Because this side of the aisle is profoundly unserious about actually reducing deficits, just as my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are profoundly unserious about reducing deficits. The entire body has been racking up debt for my entire life. $36 trillion. $1 trillion of interest. We rack up $1 trillion every 100 days. Now, what are we going to do about it? We're going to run around and talk about cutting taxes, but not doing what's necessary to cut the spending along with the cut taxes. My other side of the aisle, my colleagues will say, oh no, we got to increase taxes, but we'll do anything to cut spending. And so here we sit in the same mess. And I got to be honest, I want to remind people, this is Article 1. I yield back. I was just texting with my son back home in Austin.
Well, I mean, he's in the right at this one. If you're going to come back and do the pared down bill that does the exact same thing, except with fewer pages, then you haven't made an improvement. I mean, I'd be okay at this point if we got to January 20th and we're still government shut down at that point, with the adults back in the room. Now, Mr. Orange Man has given us some scuttlebutt about wanting to suspend the debt ceiling, which I'm fully against, so hopefully somebody can go talk him off of that fucking ledge. Alright. No, that wasn't on things that I hate. I did move this back to the main. Yes, that's what I was just talking about. Trump calls for abolishing the debt ceiling. No! That's at a capital N with a capital O. No. Synonyms. Fuck off. Not in this lifetime. Never. I told you, by the way, when I did my video where I said I was going to finally vote for Donald Trump, on the day that I did so, that this is not going to become a Trump does everything right channel. It's not. See, shit like this? No. And I've been trolling Democrats all day, too. Even right up to Senator Elizabeth Warren herself, who is saying that she is now fully on board with Donald Trump because we shouldn't be able to hold anything hostage by having a debt ceiling fight everywhere. Then I said, you know what you should do is just go to Congress and pass a 100-year freeze on the debt ceiling. Think how much that would screw Trump because he wants to raise the debt limit. And I don't know how serious he is or how much this is just he wants to expose Democrats as saying they're against the debt ceiling going up if they're not the ones racking up the fucking debt. I don't know. Let's read from NPC News. Here at hockey, Rebecca Shabbat and Sahil Kapoor reporting. President-elect Trump said on Thursday that Congress should get rid of the debt ceiling a day after he came out against a deal reached by congressional lawmakers to fund the government before a shutdown occurs. In a phone interview with NPC News, Trump said getting rid of the debt ceiling entirely would be the smartest thing Congress could do. I would support it entirely. This would turn into an anti-Trump channel so fucking fast you wouldn't even know what hit you. The Democrats have said they want to get rid of it. If they want to get rid of it, I would lead the charge. Trump suggests the debt ceiling is a meaningless concept that no one knows for sure what would happen if it were to someday be breached. A catastrophe or meaningless, and no one should want to find out. It doesn't mean anything except psychologically, he said. Well, no, it does mean something. The debt ceiling is a limit lawmakers set that determines how much the federal government can borrow to pay its bills. It doesn't authorize any new spending. Oh, but it does. Just not the way that you think it does. On the possibility of a shutdown, which would occur at 12:01 a.m. Saturday if a funding deal isn't reached, he said, if there's going to be a shutdown, we're going to start it with a Democratic president, suggesting that the fight play out in Congress now is necessary to clear the decks before his admin begins in January. Asked if he still has confidence in House Speaker Mike Johnson, Trump responded, we'll see. The funding deal they had yesterday was unacceptable, referring to the Speaker's CR. In many ways, it was unacceptable. It's a Democrat trap. It's the worst. What's nice about this, too, is, like, when Elon got this and he got jacked up on ketamine to go and look this stupid fucking thing over, he got the entire Doge department going in and looking this thing over. They've already saved the Americans billions of dollars. And done so over and over again, twice over now at this point. And they're not going to be an official department. Trump can't sit down and make an official department without congressional approval. And trust me, there's nobody in Congress that's going to vote for that shit. We have to responsibly spend money? No! But the point is not necessarily to eliminate the spending. They can't do that. But they can show the American people what we are spending on. And I think that carries a lot more weight. The Omega Fireball is a good stocking stuffer. I think that's what I have. I got into yo-yos when I was a kid, and then Pom got me one, and I just, because of everything that's been happening with new job and certain other things going on in life, I haven't had a chance to play with it. I like yo-yos. I do. Alright, so that's what we're talking about with the debt ceiling right now. Do prepare for the whining, screaming, and gnashing of teeth of a government shutdown, because it is coming at this point. And then they're going to open it back up. Boo. Let's talk about Fani Willis for just a moment, and then we will get back into everything else that we missed on Tuesday. From the Hill, Fani Willis disqualified as prosecutor on Trump Georgia election case. From Ella Lee and Zach Schoenfield. A Georgia appeals court booted DA Fani Willis's office. Not just Fani, by the way. Her whole office. From the 2020 election interference case against President-elect Trump on Thursday, due to her relationship with the top prosecutor on the case. The panel described Willis's relationship with ex-special prosecutor Nathan Wade as a significant appearance of impropriety. No shit, Sherlock. The court declined to outright dismiss the indictment, but disqualifying Willis's office throws the future of the case, already complicated by Trump's impending return to the White House, further into the doubt. Now, there's not going to be a screenshot, and I'm not going to show the Discord. But I do want to point out something that my good friend Midget B said in the Discord today with this, based on this article. So, if you will permit me, let me get back in articles. So, when I put this in, I used the AP article for this, but when I put this in here, with the same quote in there, Midget B pointed out correctly, but why would it be dead in the water if the prosecutor was impartial and the evidence was solid? And then he, with the text, described the swan chasing guy meme, which it's a goose, by the way, not a swan, but why would it be in doubt if the evidence was solid and the prosecutor was impartial? Things that keep you up at night. After carefully considering the trial court's findings and order, we conclude that it erred in failing to qualify D.A. Willis in her office. Judge E. Trenton Brown III wrote in the court's ruling. The remedy crafted by the trial court to prevent an ongoing appearance of impropriety did nothing to address the appearance of impropriety that existed at times when D.A. Willis was exercising her broad pretrial discretion about who to prosecute and what the charges to bring it continued. Best viewers on streamboo.com. Remove the space. Should I go there? Should I go to streamboo.com? Or, more importantly, should our robot friend get silenced for just a moment? I'll give you 5 minutes to think about it. I'm not going to ban you outright. AVG is also having an issue with me. There you go. You have 10 minutes to think about it. If you want to give us a real message, then go ahead. Feel free. Join the community. Have a conversation. But if you just want to go and advertise for botting, you can sit and think about it for 5 minutes. Typically, they just take off by that anyway. Yeah, I thought that the default was 5. No, it's 10. It's been a while since I've had to mute somebody. It used to be 5. 10 was the second offense, so they must have changed that on Twitch's settings. The decision leaves open the theoretical possibility of another persecutor could take the case over, but the path forward remains precarious. Trump's legal team has separately sought to dismiss all of his criminal prosecutions on the grounds that he is the president-elect. As the court rightfully noted, the only remedy of disqualification will suffice to restore the public confidence. Trump attorney Steve Sadow said in a statement, "This decision puts an end to a politically motivated persecution of the next President of the United States." It also makes it really hard for Fani Willis to get reelected as a DA or reappointed as a DA because, well, her main claim to fame was the fact that I'm going to get Trump. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. Now, right before this, she's also refusing to cooperate with congressional subpoena to turn over her paperwork in the prosecution. Which, to that, I'm actually going to say is understandable. Because if it's an ongoing case, then no, she shouldn't actually turn it over. Because it presents the discovery to the defense before she's ready to go back and present out her findings. If she were still in a prosecutorial role. as of today, that's not standing in her way anymore. So, Congress, you might want to file those contempt charges. From Olivia Rubin. DA Willis, on Thursday rebuffed the latest request from House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, seeking information related to her election interference investigation into President-elect Trump, according to a letter obtained by ABC News. Willis, who indicted Trump and 18 others in 2023, referred to the investigation as ongoing and rejected claims that the investigation was political. Well, now you have nothing standing in your way, so why don't you just go ahead and turn all that information over, and we'll make the decision as an American people what's political and what's not. I'd love to see what's in this case, by the way. I want to see what's in the Jack Smith case. I want to see what he was going to bring forward. I can't guarantee I was going to believe any of it, but I want to see what he had. Willis also wrote in her letter that the documents were protected by attorney-client privilege. I would have to research, and I have been debating going to law school for years, but I would have to research how that would work when the client is the state. Because I don't know if that applies, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it did. And that the request would expose legal theories and analyses, prosecutorial recommendations, and key evidence in an ongoing persecution. Well, there's nothing standing in your way now, so whip them out. Let's see them. And the fun part of this one, where I get to make fun of the mainstream news, who would do the same to me, with love in their hearts. Because CNN is having a real one right now over this one. AKA X is out. CNN is in full-blown meltdown mode over Fani Willis being thrown off the case. That case against him in Georgia has already been paused. Now it's not even on the back burner. It's dead in the water. But why would it be dead in the water if the evidence was solid and the prosecutor was impartial? I don't know. Let's listen to a gentleman that my friend the RRC affectionately refers to as Jim a Cocksucker.
We begin this hour with breaking news just into CNN. The Georgia prosecutor leading the state's election interference case against President-elect Donald Trump is now disqualified. CNN's Caitlin Polance is here with more. Caitlin, what can you tell us about this? This is just coming in the last several minutes. This is a big development.
A big development, and a big development that Donald Trump has wanted for a long time. That case against him in Georgia, the criminal case where it's accusing him and several others of a racketeering conspiracy related to the 2020 election, it's already been paused. Now it's not even backburnered. This is a case that will be dead in the water because the Georgia Court of Appeals is now saying that Fani Willis, the leader of the prosecution against Donald Trump, the district attorney in Fulton County, Georgia, she should be disqualified from being able to bring that case. The Georgia Court of Appeals is saying that it's a significant appearance of impropriety caused by the conduct of a public prosecutor. That is Willis, how she behaved, how she was speaking about the case, about Trump publicly, about how she was having a relationship with the top prosecutor that was concealed in this, a man named Nathan Wade. All of that, previously, the trial level judge had looked at and said, Fani Willis can stay on this case. We're not dismissing the indictment, but the Court of Appeals is now taking another look and saying, no, the trial judge was wrong. Fani Willis should be disqualified from continuing to lead this case. It would be a long process, or it will be a long process, to replace her, which is why I say this case is dead in the water now without Fani Willis, the person who was leading this case against Donald Trump in Fulton County. And just to keep tabs on how many cases there are against Donald Trump criminally, the other two in federal court, January 6th, and classified documents, those are dismissed. And then the additional case in New York City where he was set to be sentenced, that sentencing is now not happening. So as Donald Trump enters the presidency, each of these courts that is handling a criminal case is essentially removing that issue from him to have to deal with in any period of time in the near future.
All right, Kaylin Polance, thanks for that added perspective. Let me bring in and see. We begin this.
Yeah, they're having a real one over this. Now, I do think that it's criminal the way that these different courts, and they used it at a state level so that it was obvious why they did that, so that an incoming president, if he were to win the presidency, can't go back and say, I hereby pardon myself because these are a federal charge and this and that and the next thing and everything else. It was interesting the way that they did both of these things, but I think it's criminal that how they use the levers of government and the powers that be to go after a private citizen in the way that they did. And I'm not an advocate when I say that it's criminal to try to put Fannie Willis on the inside of a jail cell. Or even Biden or Jack Smith or Tanya Chutkan or Judge Merchan, Alvin Bragg or any of these other people. I don't really want to see the levers of power used against these people. Like Grant had said in a previous stream, I would, if I was the one making the decisions, I would say I'm willing to give immunity to everybody who's involved in any of this. You'll never see a jail cell. You'll never see prosecution. You'll never sit in front of a judge or anything else about this. The exchange is, I want all the documents on the table, and I want you to tell the truth about it. I don't care about putting other people in jail. I just want to know what's going on. Where the money's coming from, where the money's going, what the money's funding, what the end goal is. And for the rest of it, I don't really give a shit. You can put powerful people in jail. But then you're just going to look like those powerful people looked when they were putting the powerful people you liked in jail. Let's just take jail off the table and see what skeletons these people are hiding. That's what I care about. All right, and now, since we're on Trump news already, we are back to the stuff that we couldn't get to on Tuesday. All the new stuff is gone. Took us an hour and 8 minutes, but all the new stuff is gone. So let's do the rest of the show that I'd hoped to do on Friday until my nose happened. From CNN. Judge rules Trump does not have presidential immunity protections in hush money conviction. I'm not even a judge, and I knew that. I didn't even have to make a ruling, and I knew that. This whole article here, by the way, comes from the Democrat wish list that the Supreme Court went back and gave Trump all this major immunity, so now they can come back and scream tyranny and say that he's going to be a fascist and a dictator, and he's going to do so with immunity because he has immunity. And now Biden can use his immunity and go use SEAL Team 6 to go murder his political opponents. Because immunity. I knew when I read the ruling that he didn't have immunity in any of this. In fact, I'm a little bit surprised that a lot of top legal scholars somehow missed it. Because it's painfully obvious. He wasn't acting in an official capacity in his office. While he was in office, the money was coming out of the personal checkbook. So nothing here would have qualified as an official act. This is from Kara Scannell, Jeremy Herb, and Lauren DeValier. Trump's felony conviction in New York hush money case should not be tossed out because of the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity, Judge Juan Merchan ruled on Monday. So here's my question. Because this was a pretty open and shut case. Like, I don't know of anybody who would have been confused by thinking that the charges that were in hand, whether you thought they were legitimate or bullshit anyway, would have fallen under presidential immunity. I think he waited this long to rule on it, so he wasn't pressured to go back into sentencing, in case the unthinkable happened and the evil orange man became the president-elect again. Merchant's decision rejected one of several avenues Trump's lawyers have taken to try to dismiss Trump's May guilty verdict on 34 counts of falsifying business records. The judge did not, however, rule on a motion from Trump's attorneys to dismiss the conviction because Trump has now been elected president. Instead, his 41-page decision focused on the question of presidential immunity. Why is it 41 pages? Merchant wrote the Supreme Court's ruling that Trump should receive broad immunity for official acts during his time in office did not mean the conviction should be dismissed, ruling that evidence presented by the Manhattan DA's office was not related to Trump's official conduct as president. Again, no shit, Sherlock. I mean, the charge in and of itself is bogus, and it was a kangaroo railroad in court. But even if you took the charge as true, of course it's not an official act. That would be, say, I got elected president. Anybody else feel a chill run up and down your spine? That was weird. Alright, let's try this again. Say I get elected president. Oh shit, it happened again. What the hell? Alright, we gotta ignore it this time. Say I get elected president. And I write a check. No, I'm a millennial. I don't write checks. I go on to the Capital One app, or whoever owns the loan for whatever I'm owning, and I pay my truck payment, even though I'm president and I can't drive anymore. I make my truck payment from whatever app or whatever bank owns or the loan on my truck. That's not an official act. And for all intents and purposes, that's what this whole thing is over. He didn't need 41 pages for this. That's just him bloviating at this point. It could have been done in a single paragraph on a note card, and it would have been done. Now, of course, because he's a judge, it had to be on special letterhead. But he could have done this on a 3x5. So, bloviate, 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 bloviate. End of story. Because this is just plain stupidity too on Trump's part. Trump slams judge in hush money case for rejecting his immunity claim. Do you know why he did that? Because he's Donald fucking Trump. From Peter Charalambos and Lali Ipsa. President-elect Trump slammed the judge in his criminal hush money case on Tuesday, a day after the judge refused to dismiss Trump's convictions in the grounds of presidential immunity. Acting Justice Juan Merchan has completely disrespected the U.S. Supreme Court and its historic decision on immunity, Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform Tuesday, calling Merchant's ruling, without evidence, completely illegal. Yeah, none of that was illegal. Merchant is actually in the right on this. Again, it's still a criminal railroading, but it's not because of the Supreme Court ruling. And of course, the MAGA people are also calling this clear corruption. I love how orange they made him in this, by the way. That was done in an editing room from Hugh Cameron. Merchant's ruling has resulted in backlash from those in the Trump camp, with campaign spokesperson and incoming White House communications director Steve Cheng calling the case a direct violation of the Supreme Court's July ruling on presidential immunity, even though it's not. Mike Davis, a lawyer briefly tapped to be Trump's nominee for AG, called the decision an example of clear corruption while referring to Merchant's daughter Lauren. Now, that actually has some teeth to it, because of her position with the DNC and the Kamala Harris campaign, transition team, and VP's office. But it has nothing to do with the Supreme Court ruling. So, in other Trump news, going the other direction, ABC agrees to give $15 million to Trump's presidential library to settle a defamation lawsuit. Hold on. Got something in my throat here right now. Ha! Ha! Ha 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 ha! Sorry, I think it's all out now. From Michael R. Sisak. ABC News has agreed to pay $15 million toward Trump's presidential library to settle a defamation lawsuit over anchor George Stephanopoulos' inaccurate on-air assertion that the president-elect had been found civilly liable for raping writer Elizabeth Jean Carroll. As part of the settlement made public Saturday, ABC News posted an editor's note to the website expressing regret over Stephanopoulos' statements during a March 10th segment on his This Week program. The network will also pay $1 million in legal fees to the firm of Trump's attorney, Alejandro Brito. The settlement agreement describes ABC's presidential library payment as a charitable contribution, with money earmarked for nonprofit organization as being established in connection with the yet-to-be-built library. We are pleased that the parties reached an agreement to dismiss the lawsuit on the terms in the court filing, ABC News spokesperson Jeannie Kades said. A Trump spokesperson declined to comment. So this has been an interesting story. This stems... Now, of course, our friends on the left are trying to come back and say that this is the oligarchy and the fascism coming down and silencing a free press. I'm not kidding, by the way, that they're actually saying those words. That wasn't a joke. What was happening with this was Trump's lawyers sued ABC News for Stephanopoulos going on his This Week program and saying that Trump is a rapist for raping E. Jean Carroll. The problem with that, of course, is that while the judge proffered his opinion in absence of a jury trial, the Orange Man was not found liable for the R word. Sexual abuse, yes, but there is a clear and distinct difference between the two of these. No matter what a judge with a vendetta comes back out and says, on a case that I'm pretty sure will be turned over by appeal. Now, if he had said sexual abuse, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. With the judge's overriding opinion, going over what the jury said. I honestly think that if this had gone to court, it would have either been dismissed by the judge, thrown out, or ruled in favor of ABC. Just on the base merits of what happened there, because there was the overriding judge's opinion. The problem with this, though, is that both Stephanopoulos and Trump were set to sit down for 4-hour depositions in this case. Now, our friends on the left, when this first came out, tried to come back out and yell about the fact that the only reason that this is not going through, that this settled out of court, was because Trump is trying to avoid sitting through deposition because he's scared of what's going to happen in deposition. It's his lawsuit. If he was scared of what was going to happen in deposition, he said, "I don't want to do this anymore. I quit. Drop the lawsuit. We're done." It's his lawsuit. It's his to dismiss. I've got this feeling that Mr. Stephanopoulos has been saying a lot more things that were about to come out in Discovery that ABC News just didn't want focus on. It's stuff that we all knew was out there, because Snuffleupagus is very, very open about his opinions, but it's stuff that that they didn't want back out there. Bong says, "Oh, look at that. Another leftist judge is found to have massive impediments to impartiality, but refuses to recuse himself." Gee, I'm sure I've never heard that story before. So, yeah, I got a good chuckle out of that. CNN, why ABC News settled with Trump for $15 million. This is an analysis by Brian Stelter. Watch him analyze. Stephanopoulos ended Sunday's This Week program without any mention of him or ABC News settling Trump's defamation suit against them. The suit was triggered by a segment on This Week, but ABC News has not reported on its TV its agreement to pay $15 million to Trump's foundation at all. The quiet approach on air is keeping with the network's attitude towards the settlement writ large. The problem needed to go away, an ABC executive remarked on a condition of anonymity. Anonymous sources, where's the mogwai? But the speculation about why ABC agreed to settle and why now and why at such an expense has not gone away. Judging from social media reactions to the news, partisan know-it-alls, pot kettle Brian Stelter, on the right think that the why is obvious. ABC lied about Trump, they say, so now the network is being punished accordingly. Some Trump critics on the left are also certain they know what's going on. They say ABC and the parent company, Disney, are bowing to Trump for craven political purposes. Ultimately, the reasons for the settlement may remain a secret between the two sides, but media lawyers who spoke with CNN say it's rare to see a settlement at this stage of a legal dispute. Why now? Why would they do this now? The question Kent Turkle, a trial attorney at Turkle Cuva Barrios, asked a colleague over the weekend. Turkle, who is representing Sarah Palin in her resurrected defamation suit against the New York Times, said that he was merely speculating, like other observers, but one obvious possibility is that perhaps they didn't want to be actively litigating against a sitting president. Given the facts as alleged in the parties' respective filings, that's probably the only thing that looks different about this case, he said. In my experience, when media defendants are unsuccessful at the dismissal stage, which was in July, they focus on preparing for summary judgment to challenge the legal sufficiency of a plaintiff's claim. It begs the question as to why ABC settled before the summary judgment stage. Turkle also said you have to consider whether the discovery process unearthed emails or other internal ABC data that damaged the network's case. Also, a possibility, by the way. So, From the New York Post, Stephanopoulos apoplectic, humiliated over ABC News' $16 million defamation suit settlement with Trump, per source. From Alexandria Steingrad, George Nopalofakis is apoplectic and humiliated by the network's decision to pay $16 million to settle the suit brought by President-elect Trump. Snuffleupagus, who claimed that Trump had raped E. Jean Carroll during an interview with Nancy Mace, was particularly upset about being forced to apologize, a source with knowledge of the situation said. Anonymous again, by the way. Another source says that George is defiant. A third source says Snuffleupagus is a very guarded person. His circle of trust is so small, and a lot of them don't work at ABC anymore. So, this is all, by the way, anonymous sources. Full grain of salt mode on this one. Nobody's come forward with a name. This one is reloading, apparently. Let's try this again. NBC's F. Chuck Todd says ABC abandoned Snuffleupagus in settling with Trump. Let's see if I've got video of this.
The Fringe can't hold an audience after Comcast announced it was spinning off MSNBC, and now Warner Brothers is reportedly looking to spin off CNN, which is currently getting beaten by the Cartoon Network. Public News founder Michael Shellen.
So in that sense, it's justice already has. I mean,
No,
you've seen
that's not a video of that. All right. NBC host F. Chuck Todd said that he would have felt abandoned if he were Stephanopoulos during the legal dispute that led to ABC News settling with Trump to a whopping $50 million. This was stunning to me and absolutely a gut punch to anybody that works in a major media company, because I think it does set a precedent that it's going to be very difficult to get out from under, potentially, Todd told Substacker Chris Cillizza. Todd added that this was a decision to buy off bad PR. That's also, by the way, a distinct possibility. All I will say is that if I were in the situation that George was in, I would feel like my network abandoned me. Todd said, well, your network has abandoned you, so. That actually fits. Alright, let's talk about Liz Cheney. I am going to do the video for this one.
House Republicans released a report today recommending a criminal investigation into one of Donald Trump's most vocal critics. The report accuses former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney of witness tampering during her work on the committee that investigated the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Cheney responding, saying in part that the allegations are a malicious and cowardly assault on the truth. Niall Sainage, White House columnist here at The Hill, joins me to discuss. Now, Cheney campaigned with Kamala Harris during the 2024 presidential race, warning that Trump would disregard the rule of law in his pursuit of political enemies should he return to power. He posted after this report was released on Truth Social, saying these violations should be investigated by the FBI. Is her prediction coming to fruition?
I think it is to a large extent. This is seemingly an act of retaliation against Liz Cheney. Now, I'm not saying that Liz Cheney or anyone else should be above the law. Nobody should be above the law. But if you look at this report and the claims that it's making, the things that it is characterizing as witness tampering seem a good deal more innocuous than the classic interpretation of that term. What we're talking about here is Liz Cheney responding to a request from a now quite famous witness, Cassidy Hutchinson, about a lawyer, finding a new lawyer rather than the Trump-backed lawyer that she had, either Cheney or her staff, then sent on a list of possible attorneys.
Yeah, we've seen, it's not just this, it's other areas, maybe people in the media where Trump is kind of using this shotgun approach to go after people, and maybe it's not that this would actually hold weight in a court of law, but legal fees, time, just making your life miserable could be a deterrent effect for other people that could possibly want to investigate the Trump administration in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we see a parallel track to exactly that idea when it comes to the media. Just in the past 24 hours or so, President-elect Trump announcing plans to sue the Des Moines Register and a famous pollster in Iowa over a poll that had projected a Kamala Harris victory in Iowa. Obviously that didn't happen, but Trump arguing that that is in some sense actionable. I doubt very...
All right, so they're not really talking about what's going on with this, so let's talk a bit about that. From the Hill, Republicans released a report Tuesday reviewing the failures and politicization of the now disbanded House January 6th committee, capping their investigation by recommending a criminal investigation into former Rep. Liz Cheney. The 128-page interim report forwards many of the claims circulated by the GOP since the committee was organized, complaining that January 6th Select Committee was improperly constituted and unfairly pinned blame on President-elect Trump. Well, it was a very, very major stage production made to make you feel a certain way. Speaker Pelosi's multi-million-dollar Select Committee was a political weapon with a singular focus to deceive the public into blaming Trump for the violence on January 6th and to tarnish the legacy of his first presidency, the report states. The report's conclusion also calls for the FBI investigation into Cheney. No. Bad. A congressional investigation, maybe, but not the FBI. Accusing her of witness tampering by being in touch with star witness Cassidy Hutchinson, a former White House aide. So this all stems over extra investigative conversations that Cheney had with Cassidy Hutchinson, including outside of the scope of Hutchinson's attorney. It's a claim that if pursued would likely face significant roadblocks, but that nonetheless comes as Trump has suggested members of the January 6th panel should go to jail for their work. Its suggestion and the panel's report at large was excoriated by Cheney. So, again, I go back to what I talked about, and again, quoting my friend Grant, for his take on what should actually be happening with this. Give Cheney immunity. Say that she can't go to jail for anything. And see if she'll actually come out and tell the truth. Give Hutchinson immunity. Say that she can't go to jail for anything. And the rest of the January 6th committee people. Because I don't care about putting our political enemies in prison. I think that's crass. I think that's wrong. And realistically, if the truth were to actually come out, you would be giving them a punishment worth the jail. Because if they go to jail, they're martyrs. You could give them the same effect that the Donald had by giving him all the indictments and saying that he could be taking the oath of office with an ankle monitor on because he's in house arrest at the Mar-a-Lago. You make martyrs out of these people. Take their martyrdom away, make them tell the truth about what it is that they all did, and make it impossible for them ever to see the inside of Congress again as an elected official. Make it so that if they want to see the inside of the Capitol building again, they have to do so as a tourist. That is a fate worse than prison for any of these elected officials. And it saves us from a bunch of bullshit too. In the same midst of things, Christopher Wray has stepped down. Now, this is an opinion piece. Well, I'm actually going to swap that with this one. And we'll talk about what happened right before he decided he was going to step down. In news that surprises nobody. FBI Director Chris Wray to resign at the end of Biden term, clearing the way for Trump pick. From Evan Perez and Holmes Librarian. Long says, "Oh, look at that! Suddenly lawfare is bad." Remember, children, the old leftist dictum about how to fight dirty. There are no bad tactics, only bad targets. That's a fair point. FBI Director Chris Wray will resign at the end of Biden admin, the agency said Wednesday, as it became clear he would be forced out by President-elect Trump. Trump, who originally nominated Wray after firing the previous FBI director, previously announced that he will nominate Kash Patel for the role, although Wray still had 3 years remaining on his 10-year term. Patel has been meeting with senators to build support for a confirmation vote next year. Wray had wrestled with whether or not to resign given Trump's stated desire to replace him, sources say, and wants to facilitate an orderly transition, but some in the FBI worried his departure will normalize Trump's penchant for replacing FBI directors he doesn't like, as the position is supposed to straddle administrations and be insulated from politics. Well, if it's supposed to be insulated from politics, then Wray and Comey shouldn't have been playing politics. Although, we can bring J. Edgar Hoover into this entire thing too, if we want to talk about playing politics as an FBI director. I'm just saying. Wray took the helm of the agency after Trump fired Comey following investigations under his watch into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Wray took office after Comey, whose FBI also investigated Hillary's use of a private email server, left the bureau in May of 2017. As the incoming director, Wray was seen by many lawmakers as a solid choice to stabilize a rocky ship, but he ultimately suffered a similar fate as his predecessor, as he too oversaw an FBI that investigated Trump, probes resulting in 2 separate federal cases against the former president. Trump in particular was unhappy with the FBI's court-approved search of his Mar-a-Lago resort in August of 2022 during the investigation into his alleged mishandling of classified documents. Just this week, Trump said on NBC's Meet the Depressed that he wasn't thrilled with Wray. "He invaded my home, okay? He invaded Mar-a-Lago." Wray made his announcement at a town hall in FBI headquarters in D.C. Following his remarks, there was a standing ovation, and some people were seen crying, according to sources who attended the event. So, he is out. I wasn't overly impressed with him either, but I dare say that there's not going to be any sort of FBI director, any lead cop in this country who is going to impress me. From the op-ed page at The Hill, Chris Wray's big mistake, why it was wrong for the FBI head to step down, from Austin Surratt. Last Wednesday, Director Wray was surprised the nation by announcing he would be stepping down on January 20th. Wray's 10-year appointment was due to run through 2027. On December 1st, Trump announced his intention to cut short the term of Wray and select Kash Patel to lead an agency the president-elect often criticized on the campaign trail. At the same time, Ted Cruz predicted that Wray would either resign or Trump would fire him. It's no secret to anybody, including Wray, that he's not going to continue to serve as the head of the FBI. As New Yorker's Beverly Gage puts it, if Trump gets his way, the Bureau could be politicized in ways that even the notorious first director would have rejected. For all of his many faults and abuses of power, Gage writes, Hoover was nevertheless an institution builder. He believes the FBI's nonpartisan independence. Not so Kash Patel, the person who Trump wants to install as the head of the Bureau. Hoover, Gage observes, used to describe the Bureau as one bulwark against the hidden left-wing conspiracy that penetrated all corners of American life. In Patel's world, the FBI is the conspiracy. But see, both of these things can be true. So, Ray's resignation also sends a message to others in the federal government who fear they'll be targeted after January 20th. Get out while the getting is good. Like me, Benjamin Witt worries about the signal Ray's resignation sends to the workforce and the American people about a leader's willingness to throw himself in front of a wrecking ball. To protect core institutions of democracy, what Ray did indicates that it may be the best for others to make a quiet exit, mumbling platitudes while the wrecking ball roars by. I don't know. This was a pretty political FBI. And like I said, this makes the J. Edgar Hoover years seem like a nonpartisan free-for-all. So, it might be good for him to be gone. But now, why is the other reason that he's heading out of here? From the BBC, FBI informants were at the Capitol riot, but no agents. Watchdog finds. This first line, CNN in its headline phase doesn't even cover. From Bern de Busman Jr. More than 24 FBI informants were at D.C. ahead of the riot at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, but no full-time undercover agents were present or took part in the riot itself, according to a new DOJ report. The report said none of the agency's informants were authorized to enter the Capitol or join the riot, but 4 did enter the building. Weird! And the other one stayed outside and directed everybody else into the building, just like they were supposed to. The report also found the FBI failed in the basic step of adequately using its field offices across the U.S. to gather intelligence that could have predicted the riot. No, they didn't. Do you know why? Because it happened. With the informants there, some on the right, including House Republicans, have said for years promoted a fringe conspiracy theory that the FBI helped orchestrate the riot. On the day of the riot, a mob stormed the Capitol. No, they did not. That is false, as the 2020 presidential election was being certified. Hundreds have since been arrested and criminally charged for their participation. Trump has vowed to pardon most of the convicted January 6 rioters as soon as he returns to the White House in January. The report from the DOJ's Office of Inspector General found that 26 confidential human sources, or paid informants, were in Washington on the day of the riot. 3 of them had been tasked with gathering information for domestic terrorism cases, who might have been going to the rallies on January 6, one of whom entered the Capitol building. The remaining 23 had not been directed to be in the area, but did so on their own initiatives. At the time, some were in contact or traveling with members of the far-right groups, including the Pride Boys and the Oath Keepers. So here's what's wrong with this. And there are a lot of major things that are completely wrong with, well, all of this. I do believe the FBI staged this, by the way, with their 26 informants. And it doesn't take 26 people to get a large crowd of people going into a place that they're not supposed to be. Especially when you have thousands of people who are out there. A lot of them angry, a lot of them are upset with what's happened, what they feel they've voted against, and feeling powerless to do anything about any of it. We may never know what happened with the 2020 election. I believe things about that election that I probably can say on YouTube right now, but somewhere far, far down the road when they change the rules again and start retroactively banning videos, years in the past, I probably will not be able to say then. And this video would get taken down at the time. And given the fact that there's a live stream and then a re-upload of the video, that's 2 strikes against me at the same time. But that is regardless of the point. What you have when we look at things like this is the fact that a large mass of people is only as smart as the dumbest members. We saw this with the St. George riots as well. I think a lot of people out there just wanted to go and march. But when certain people, and I believe the FBI informants were involved with that as well, said, let's go break bricks. Let's throw bricks at stuff. Let's riot. Let's burn. Aren't you angry? Let's go burn things. The crowd mentality comes in, and the crowd becomes again as smart as the dumbest member. And then you have riots across U.S. cities all over the place where people are literally dying, and a country that is begging for the Insurrection Act to be called. And it never came, because as soon as the Insurrection Act was called, it was, oh, Trump's a dictator! He's a dictator! Look at him using dictatorial powers to quash peaceful protests against actual government grievances. But going back to the January the 6th, when you've got people marching around the Capitol, wanting to make their voices heard, unarmed, and you've got things like flagpoles and bear spray just happening to be laying around, or people have cans of Axe, or things that can be used as makeshift weapons. While these people are wandering around completely unarmed under normal circumstances, the FBI informant, the paid informant, comes back out and says, oh, hey, here's this can of bear spray. Go ahead and use that. If any cops try to stop you, just spray this at them. Oh, hey, here's this convenient pile of bricks. Hey, look at the sharp point on that flagpole. If this goes out the way that, or this happens the way that I'm describing, and we all watched it happen there, where dozens and dozens and dozens, up to the hundreds and sometimes thousands of unarmed people climb the walls, enter the Capitol, you get a few of them running through the halls, then you can selectively edit your video to make it look like more of them are, or more of them are present while the others are running through the halls. The party gets a distraction while they go back and count the votes that they want to count for the reason that they want to count. And you have a sympathetic country that has now seen dozens of people climbing walls, punching cops, swinging that flagpole, in a position where they would have no ability to, quote, overthrow the government, but in a position where you can come back out and say, look at the insurrection, look at these people, these evil Trump supporters, it's an insurrection, oh my God. And then you can slap felonies with people who are more than eager to go back out and vote for the candidate that you are against. So, yes, with the evidence now that we have 26 paid informants to this, I can come back and look at this and say, this might not have been a setup, but it checked all the boxes of things that would definitely benefit the ruling party. Kind of liked what CNN had to say with this one. No undercover agents were at the January 6th U.S. Capitol riot, Watchdog reports, and this headline just went all over X because it debunks, I'm going to debunk the narrative that Trump supporters come out and say that it was the FBI agents that did so. Never mind the fact that they had 26 paid sources out there. Alright, so that's what we have for that. Speaking of things that could cause a riot, let's talk about Derek Chauvin. Oh look, we have a winter storm warning, which it did get bad out there. I don't know if it is now, but Like, I drove home at 40 miles an hour on the interstate. From Fox 9 KMSP, Derek Chauvin allowed to analyze George Floyd's heart tissue, judge rules. This was published on December 17th. So last Tuesday. A federal judge on Monday approved a motion from Chauvin's legal team to analyze heart tissue and fluid samples from George Floyd's autopsy to see whether Floyd may have died from a heart condition. The former Minneapolis police officer is currently serving a prison sentence on federal conviction for violating Floyd's civil rights. He filed a motion in 2023 to overturn the conviction, claiming in part there's new evidence showing he didn't cause Floyd's death. Now, I'm going to come right out and say, this one bothers me. I am a bit conspiracy minded, but I try to base something in things that are actually tangible, touchable. And don't go too far out onto La La Land. I said that to say this. It is December 19th right now. The votes to certify Trump's election will happen on January 6th of this year, in 3 weeks. And in 6 weeks, 5 weeks, I'm sorry, January 20th will be here, which will be the inauguration day for Trump to take office again. And now, in the time that it's going to take to analyze, come out, and overturn any conviction that's out there, that's going to put us probably right about into January 15th, January 16th. When a judge comes back out, hears this, sees the new evidence, and says, due to the new evidence, I'm overturning this case. Derek Chauvin, you're a free man. This seems too conveniently timed, because what's going to happen when BLM finds out that Chauvin is out? You remember those bricks that I mentioned not that long ago? With the FBI informants handing them out and saying, oh, I know you're mad and I know this is a peaceful march, but you'll get your voice heard if you just throw this brick through that window. Hey, here's this bottle of liquid with a flaming rag out of it. If you just throw this at this storefront over here, you'll have your voice heard. I promise. No, I'll totally be behind you throwing it with you. This is the kind of shit that makes me believe that Chauvin is in on this. I thought that Stephen Ignoramus was out there when he made that suggestion that Chauvin was in on it because Floyd wasn't actually dead, it was a dummy and things like that, and some of the really, really out there conspiracy theories that are coming around this. The timing of this is the kind of thing that would actually make me sit here and think, oh, is he in on this? Is he a part of this? Did I miss this somehow? So, watch for this one. Well, thanks for the thumbs up, Into joined us, of course, and said hi to everybody who's in the chat. In other news, Senate Democrats push a plan to abolish the Electoral College from Alexander Bolton. Good luck. The problem with the Electoral College is you can't abolish it with a congressional act. It's in the Constitution. It's in Article 2, Section 1, which means in order to get it out of practice, you have to pass it in both chambers, which is not going to happen. Get it past the presidency, which is not going to happen. Send it back down to every state house, and it has to pass every chamber in 30 state houses, 2/3 vote, not 3/4, 2/3. 33, by the way, state houses, so it has to pass both chambers and get gubernatorial signature in 33 state houses, and then it has to come back and get passed by the House and Senate and the presidency again. Good luck with that. The abolishment of the Electoral College is not something that's going to happen in our lifetimes. You have a better chance of the interstate compact happening. Alright. And the last couple things that we have here. The Biden admin auctioning pieces of the border wall for like $5 a starting bid. Mostly because they want the Trump administration to go back and spend the money again to go back and appropriate all these materials for a higher price. And then come back and say, look at how much he's spending. Oh my God, look at how much he's spending. Material to be used for the wall along the U.S.-Mexico border was reportedly taken away in Arizona, set for auction just weeks before the barrier's champion, Trump, returns to the White House. Video obtained by the Daily Wire showed sheets of the border wall being towed away close to Tucson, headed to the surplus government equipment auction marketplace on Gulf Planet. They're taken away from 3 stations, Nogales, Tucson, and 3 Points. A Border Patrol agent told the outlet on condition of anonymity the goal is to move it all off the border before Christmas. Paneling meant to form a part of the wall before Biden halted construction was seen piled up at the auction site. So let's watch the video. That seems like the obvious thing to do here. So if you want stuff for bollard fencing, it's out there waiting for you. And I guess they're starting it at $5 bids too. If the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers' response to Newsweek 2023 aligns with Friday's reports, it might not be as nefarious as Crane believes, a spokesperson said at the time, that the materials were being disposed of in accordance with federal acquisition regulations. The Corps of Engineers has already transferred approximately $154 million worth of the roughly $260 million of bollard, panels, and other materials in accordance with standard of excess property disposition procedures, a spokesperson said at the time. But see, and again, we're doing this in hurry-up mode, trying to get this pushed out before we get to Inauguration Day, where it's a simple check mark and a signature on a piece of paper that says, start building this again. And no report is complete without coming from the Daily Wire. Texas Lieutenant Governor vows, we will buy every piece of the border wall Biden selling and give it to Trump. Which I don't think that he can actually take that. I think he does have to still buy it back. What they agree on for the price, well, that'll be between the State Department and the State Department of Texas. But I don't think they can actually just give it back. Long says, I'm missing a bunch of info about the Chauvin appeal. No, I get the info about it. And I do get what you're saying about the fact that yes, this is consequential evidence. All of that I agree with. It's the timing. It's the fact that it's happening right to a point where the appeal and the overturn can happen at least partially into Trump's presidency, if not a couple days before. And the riots that are going to come with that, no matter what. Like, if they were doing this in 2022, let's say 2023, in the middle of 2023, I'd be less suspect of it. It's the fact that it's coming out right before. After the Daily Wire published an exclusive report revealing that the Biden admin was racing to solve parts of the border wall before Trump takes office, Texas GOP Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick fiercely declared that his state was prepared to bid on every piece being sold and then give it directly to Trump. Trump made clear during his campaign that he intends to finish construction of the border wall, making use of the materials that have remained untouched at the border since Biden took office. If the material brought to the border during his first term is sold off, it will significantly delay any progress on one of Trump's flagship campaign promises at the border, the Daily Wire reported Tuesday, adding, the auction website shows that sales occurred as recently as December 4th for precisely the types of materials being pulled off the border. Gulf Planet has online auctions set for December 11th, December 18th for more of the border wall material, which is listed on the company's website as $32.91 by 7.91 steel bollard sections with grout. The bidding for each section of wall panel is set to begin at only $5 according to the website. So, be interested to see how and where that goes. And with that, I'm going to call that for the news. But, as we always do, except for last week, of course, because of reasons, we're going to finish out by looking at the rules of acquisition and things I like and things that I hate. So every week we look at the Ferengi Rules of Acquisition, a group of rules that the Ferengi Society is supposed to live by. And if they live by them, they earn the social credit that they can take to the Divine Treasury at the end of their lives to bid on their reincarnated next lives. Whether they get a good life or a bad life depends on how well they keep these rules of acquisition. Every week we read one of these rules of acquisition, make the determination whether it can be used in real life or if it is a communistic person's criticism of capitalism. And if it is usable in real life, how we can use it in real life. So, we are at the 37th Rule of Acquisition from Star Trek novella Reservoir Ferengi. The early investor reaps the most interest. That is a fairly straightforward mathematical formula, by the way. If you invest, like in Bitcoin, that's a really, really good example of that. The people who invested in Bitcoin when it was tenths of a cent are billionaires at this point. Some of them probably have some Bitcoins in a sock drawer somewhere or a wallet somewhere that they can't get access to anymore, a flash drive or something. But those are the people who reap the most interest. Now, some of these things are going to fail. Some of them are going to be great. And it's up to your instincts and sometimes a little bit of chance to know what's going to be there and what's going to not. What to put your investment down and what to leave alone. But yes, the early investor reaps the most interest. With an asterisk that says pending if the investment is successful. I did okay with Dogecoin, by the way. I'm not rich off of it. I got a little bit of Doge, though. That is your 37th rule of acquisition. Let's talk about some things that I like, including an interesting discussion that we had in the Discord earlier on today. The advantage of coming back and doing more of this today is that I got to catch up on a couple days more news by doing so. Taco Bell chicken nuggets. Yes, you read that right. When you can get the new menu item, which apparently on the east side of the state you already can. I have not myself gone to get any of these. I made a fairly large life change. And I'm not going to be eating out for at least a little while at this point. But I would like to try them. Apparently they're very good. Thanks to our friend Vong for being the guinea pig for these. There's a new menu item coming to Taco Bell this week, chicken nuggets. Chicken nuggets, by the way, in a tortilla with a little bit of lettuce and cheese on top sounds divine. I don't even want to dunk the fucking things. I just want to eat them as a little taco. As the much-beloved fast food chain says in its own press release, a world where chicken nuggets loyalty runs deep, whether it's McDonald's, Wendy's, or Chick-fil-A, and also a world dominated by chicken cravings. I do not suffer from that. I like chicken a little bit. If I have my go-to, I go to pork, though. Or shrimp. Or fish. But I do like chicken every once in a while. Earlier this year, Liz Matthews, Taco Bell's Global Chief Food Innovation Officer, said, in anticipation of the release of the Cantina Chicken menu, that we knew our fans wanted more chicken. And so now, beginning December 19th and while supplies last, Taco Bell will give you, those fans, what they want in an attempt to satiate those cravings in this poultry-mad world, with its own take on the fast food favorite. According to the Bell, the chicken nuggets will be marinated in zesty jalapeno buttermilk flavor and breaded with a blend of breadcrumbs and crunchy tortilla chips. That sounds delicious, by the way. Given that every chicken nugget needs sauce, the new menu offering will be accompanied by a trio of dipping options, including jalapeno honey mustard, which also sounds fantastic, by the way. A spicy ranch made in collaboration with Hidden Valley. Okay, you've 2 for 2 for me. And the chain's own signature Bell sauce. Taco Bell's new chicken nugget menu will include 5 and 10-piece meals with one sauce for $3.99 and $6.99 respectively, and 5 and 10-piece combo meals, including one sauce and an order of nacho fries and a drink for $5.99 and $8.99. Ooh, nuggets and nacho fries. Nuggets and nacho fries. A full value meal, including 5 chicken nuggets, 1 sauce, a crunchy taco, a beef chalupa, nacho fries, and a drink will be $10.49, and you won't have to eat for the next 3 days. Taco Bell previously conducted taste tests of the new menu item in Minneapolis in 23, and earlier this year in Houston. This limited time nationwide offering will be available while supplies last. So, I'm interested. You've got my attention. Apparently, they're really good. And I hope that they stay a permanent menu fixture. Other things that I like. From KVTA 4. Man arrested after sending hundreds of used dildos to the White House on Valentine's Day. So Joe Biden can go fuck himself. This is an old story. But I first heard about it this past weekend. And I laughed. And I laughed. And I laughed. Kurt Fellow, 67, is being held by Secret Service at an undisclosed location, because of course he is, after a shipment containing close to 1,000 previously used sex toys, dildos, arrived at the White House on Valentine's Day, addressed to Biden. The letter attached to the shipment said, "Happy Valentine's Day, Sleepy Joe. Since you like to fuck all of us, why don't you go and fuck yourself?" While sending unsolicited shipments of dildos to the president is grounds for arrest, not to mention possible health concern, the additional letter, which for reasons of national security cannot be fully disclosed to the public at this time, put Fellows at the top of the to-do list for the Secret Service. Federal agents want Kurt Fellows' Montana ranch and arrested him without incident. So, boo on that, but I mean, that's a sentiment that we should all have for the government. Whether we act on that, which you shouldn't, you should not act on it. That is a thought inside of us. For a lot of government officials, I still like Rand and Massey, but for a lot of government officials, that is a sentiment that we should hold deep in our hearts. Let's see. A couple more things that I like on this. Fetterman. While I'm not a big fan of the fact that he has presidential ambitions, because I think he's a fucking goofball, Fetterman is starting to cross the line and do something that a lot of Democrats have a failure of an ability to do. Now, make no mistake, no matter how many base things this guy says, he is still a full-out progressive liberal. And that is not going to change, but he is looking for a reach across the aisle to come back and say, I've worked with Republicans. I like some of your ideas. And he is one of the first ones to come out and agree with my take, even though I said it had to be from Hochul, not from Biden, to go and have the hush money payments case dropped because, well, before election time, it would have been a situation where Kathy Hochul says, no, we're strong Democrats. We can beat him without lawfare. So let's just drop this and we'll show you how we can beat him. And I still think he would have won this time through, but I don't think the number would have been 312 electoral votes. But I brought this one up to bring up this one. First Democrat ever, well, first Democrat senator, by the way, not ever, joins Truth Social. Coming to us from Politico, John Fetterman is on Truth Social. The Pennsylvania senator appears to be the first Democrat in the chamber to join President-elect Trump's social media site. In his first Truth, Fetterman advocated for Trump to be pardoned for the New York hush money case, for which he was found guilty of 34 felony counts, comparing the case to Hunter Biden and saying they were both bullshit. Weaponizing the judiciary for blatant partisan gain, it diminishes the collective faith in our institutions and sows further division, Fetterman said in the Tuesday Evening Post. That's not a new opinion for Fetterman, who's been calling for Trump to be pardoned since Biden issued a sweeping pardon of his son Hunter, who had been embroiled in a series of legal issues regarding federal firearms and tax charges. So, and again, the pardon thing I understand and I get, but the thing with Fetterman is the fact that this is a person in the Democratic echo chamber who wants to hear what people who would be on Truth Social have to say, who wants to hear what the Republicans on X want to say, who actually wants to hear what people outside of his echo chamber want to say. I don't know if it'll shape his opinion or not, but he's making an effort to hear it. Where he goes with that has yet to be seen. But he is making an effort to hear it. Dem Saints, who actually clearly learned nothing from this election, did bring out a good point off of the election side. Alright, Democrats, it's time for some tough love, he says. I've been hesitant to post this, but I think it has to be said. There are 3 toxic words that cost us the election, 3 words that made for bad policy and bad politics. Those words are trans women are women. And what I will say with that is, okay, that's part of it. You're moving in the right direction. You're not there yet. But you are moving in the right direction. Honestly, the 3 toxic words that cost them the election are, "You are Russian," or 4 words, "You are a bot." Anybody who doesn't think like me must be subhuman or an enemy faction from an enemy country, cannot be possibly an American citizen with concerns or worries or wonders on how they're going to buy a house or feed their family or start a family or things like that. But this religious attachment to these bylaws and bylines that are coming out of the party, especially the trans women or women one. That's why I didn't dismiss him outright. And I said that he is going in the right direction. He's not quite there, but he's going in the right direction for sure. So, now we're going to do a few things that I hate. Representative Anna Paulina Luna, Republican, proving again that I will come out against Republicans if they're being stupid. Leads off things that I hate today. Stop poisoning our food, Luna says. We must ban seed oils, high fructose corn syrup, and other highly processed additives. Make America healthy again. No. The time of the government telling us what's good for us and what's bad for us was over about in the time of the conversations about the vaccine mandates. Now, I do think that we should have better information about what seed oils do, what they are, what foods they are in, so you can make an informed decision on whether or not you want to use them, and then have alternatives out there that have no seed oils in them, where people can make the decision whether they want to buy the seed oil product or the non-seed oil product. And I think a lot of people will make the decision based on, of course, the price point, the availability, and also they will make their health decisions. But coming out and banning it, I mean, that's the same thing. Put the needle in your arm, you moron. We know what's best for you. Stop resisting. Just take the jab. Put on the mask. We, the government, know what's better for you than you do. We make your decisions for you. If you're going to go and be a Democrat, then switch your party affiliation. And I do agree that seed oils are bad for you. I've looked up the information for them. Sarah Higdon actually does have a compromise here. Why not just start with ending subsidies on Monsanto and other manufacturers of these items? That's what makes them so cheap, and why manufacturers put them in foods. That's a good way to do it, and we save taxpayer money by doing so. Let the tallows, the animal fats, and the avocado oils, the good fats, be able to compete on an even keel with the seed oils, and then see what it is that people buy. But no. Ban? No. We're not doing that shit anymore. Got one here from the New York Post. DC food workers vow Trump officials won't feel welcome when dining out in the nation's capital. A little bit of a win for us. Now, I am going to part ways with a lot of my conservative friends on this one. But really all you're doing is hurting yourself. This goes back to a Matt Christensen video that came out right at the time that I was starting to put my own videos out. In fact, I made a review and rebuttal of Matt's video on this because I felt somewhat the same as he did, but I had slightly different for this. Now, Matt was reviewing a hardware store in rural Tennessee that had chosen to put up a sign that said "No gays allowed," and the argument that was going up before the Supreme Court at the time because of that was whether or not he had the right to do that, given the fact that most businesses in Tennessee had the right to refuse service to anybody for any reason. and how that would affect his bottom line. And the Ferengi in me knows that turning away a customer based on an external factor, especially something that, as far as we know, they really can't put any control over, but doesn't affect us normally, is a stupid way to lose money. But I've always said, and it's the same thing with these restaurants, I want them to have signs out that say, no Trump supporters allowed, no Trump staffers allowed. We literally hate you, go away. Do you know why? Because I want to know not to go to these places. And I'm not even a Trump supporter. But I wouldn't give my money to a place like that. And I want to know. I don't want to feel like the proprietor of such a business is being nice to me, accepting of me, engaging in conversation with me. Because the law says that they have to. If that person hates me, I want them to wear it on their sleeve. Because then I don't make the mistake of giving them money. And I could sit back and watch their business fail. Or struggle. So you can come back and chalk this up as a win. And I support your ability to do this. Your business is private property. Yes, there are taxes involved, but it doesn't make it public property. You have the right to refuse service to anybody of your so choosing for whatever reason. Just be open about it so I don't make the mistake of spending money in your establishment. I mean, up until very, very recently, I haven't put a dime into the Walmart Corporation since they came on their soapbox about 5.56 ammunition. They made how they felt about people having pro-Second Amendment views out in the open, and I said, okay, well, I don't want to give you my money then. It's that simple. Other things that I hate. Duke lacrosse rape hoax accuser's confession teaches a lesson that the left won't learn. This is an op-ed, but this follows up on the fact that the woman who carried a mattress around the campus claiming that she was raped by the lacrosse team at Duke came out and said no, she made the whole thing up. The left can't stop pitching its narrative to bogus stories. Last week, Crystal Magnum, the accuser at the center of the notorious Duke lacrosse rape hoax, admitted for the first time she had lied about being brutally assaulted by David Evans, Cullen Finnerty, and Reed Seligman at a party in '06. Oh, Mattress Girl was a different one? I thought that was the same one. From prison, where she's serving time for murdering her boyfriend in 2011, Magnum asked for the three men's forgiveness. I testified falsely against them by saying they raped me when they didn't, and that was wrong. She's not the only one who should be groveling. At the time of the trial, Evans, Finnerty, and Seligman were mercilessly dragged through the mud by rapid progressives with an axe to grind. The players had the audacity to be well-off, white, and male. The media responded like sharks to a bucket of chum, framing the young men as vicious, racist, misogynistic monsters. Duke Professor Houston A. Baker decreed the drunken white male privilege loosed among us. And it wasn't just them, by the way. That was one of the things that started off the all white men are evil narrative that probably partially cost the Harris campaign their election. This is one of the things that started that mentality, that sentiment. So, honestly, Democrats, especially the ones in power and progressives, should be apologizing to their voters saying, we cost you this election. Forgive us. Let us keep voting for your candidates. But this was horrific on multiple levels. I'm glad there's some justice for this. When the three were exonerated, there was no self-reflection from the Out for Blood hoax enablers, much less a mea culpa. So, I'm glad she at least came out. We can put this one to bed. Couple more things, and then we'll head out of here for the night. Biden calls for a ban on congressional stock trading. This is symbolic. This is 100% symbolic, and there's nothing else to say about this at this point. Why do I say this is symbolic? Well, there are a lot of people from both parties who become very, very rich on insider and stock trading. There is literally an X page that tracks congressional stock trades. So you have a chance to go back and make the same trade and make the same money that they made off of them. Probably in lesser quantity than they did. So this has been a big problem for a while now. But with Biden to call for a ban on this, Biden has no teeth to do this. This is both for policy-wise and for separation of powers. Biden cannot do anything about this except for urge for legislation from this. And members of both parties in the House are never going to go back and vote for this. They're the worst ones off of the bunch. The Senate is a little bit behind them as far as the amount of money they've made off of congressional stock trading, but not much. So he can come out and say the thing and make all the progressive people happy and say, okay, I tried, but the evil Republicans blocked me. And now they have evil Donald Trump in there who's never going to come back and call for this again. But look at me, this is my legacy. Congressional stock trading. It was bad, and I always thought it was bad, even though I made money off it myself when I was in Congress. And it's, in the lame duck session, it's just a little bit too little too late. From the Daily Wire, Elton John said legalizing marijuana is one of the greatest mistakes of all time. From Amanda Harding. Singer Elton John recently said legalizing weed in parts of the U.S. was misguided because it leads to the use of other harder drugs. So we're going to go right back into the drug war from somebody who was around in the 70s, who went out and had his fun. And trust me, you don't decide to wear glasses like this in the 70s. Unless you're on a bunch of shit. He went out and had his fun, and now he wants to take it back away from everybody else. No, we're not going to go back down the drug war. I like some of Elton John's songs. I don't like a lot of them. But he can go back and sit this one back out. Let's try to not put more people in prison. Over a plant. Over nothing. And the last one. This stems from something that I hated a few weeks ago when I told you guys, don't make me defend Nick Fuentes. And now I have to come back out to you again in front and say, don't make me defend Nick Fuentes. Far-right influencer Nick Fuentes claims home was among those targeted by a homicide suspect. Fuentes believes his Berwyn home was among those targeted by a man suspected in a triple homicide who was fatally shot by police late Wednesday night following a home invasion on Fuentes' block. The situation first started around 9:40 in downstate Illinois, just over 2 hours south of Berwyn, where police said a triple homicide took place. According to Illinois State Patrol, 3 people were killed in the 1100 block of Riverside Drive and Mahomet, just outside of Champaign. All 3 were shot, with 1 pronounced dead at the scene and others dying in area hospitals. The man suspected in those killings was then spotted roughly 2 hours later. As authorities said, Berwyn police responded to the 1800 block of Home Avenue for reports of a man armed with a gun. Berwyn is over 144 miles away from Mahomet. Upon arrival, police said the man fled on foot and successfully escaped the 2 responding police officers before forcing his way into a home on a nearby street where he fatally shot 2 dogs. Officials said the man fled into a yard, once again on Home Avenue. Fuentes, who lives in the area of the Berwyn incident, posted on X, formerly Twitter, Thursday afternoon claiming Lyons came to his home and was captured on Ring doorbell footage that same night. Last night, an armed killer made an attempt on my life at my home, which was recently doxed in the platform. The gunman carried a pistol, crossbow, and incendiary devices. I believe he intended to kill me. Fuentes wrote, adding the gunman broke into a neighbor's home to evade police and killed 2 of their dogs. Now, was he taken alive or dead? Let's go back and look. No, he is dead, so he's never going to be able to answer for any of this. We're never going to get his official story whether or not he was going for Fuentes. If he was on the Ring camera, there'd be suspicion that he was, especially given the fact that Fuentes' address was literally just published 2 weeks ago. Again, don't make me defend Fuentes. He sucks. He doesn't even believe his own bullshit. But he does have a right to his own privacy, his own sanctuary, and his own home. And while we'll never be able to prove that the gunman was going for him, given the events of a couple weeks ago, there's at least reasonable suspicion of that. His address gets published by a crazed lunatic leftist. And then a few weeks later, somebody who's suspected of triple homicide shows up on his Ring camera. So, unless the triple homicide person had a manifesto, which we'll probably never see, if that was the case, we'll never know the actual conclusion to this, but yeah, there's a reason the suspicion is out there. Alright, I'm heading out of here for the night. And for the year, I believe. No, I'll have the 31st, I guess. New Year's, nah. No, I'm not going to be here New Year's Eve either. So yes, this is the last time we're going to be here together like this for the year. I don't know what my plans are for New Year's Eve, but I know that they involve being with Palm. And for as late as the show runs, there would be no way to make those 2 things connect. So we're not going to have this conversation again until January. Look at that. So I want to say before I throw the outro music up, thank you so much for everybody who gave me so much support over the year. I know that we had some major changes to the format this year. A few ups and downs and some hiccups, some scheduling changes as we went. And yes, even going so far as to moving to 1 night a week, although we did that last year instead of 5 nights a week because, well, between working all the overtime that I did and everything else, life was getting in the way. But we made it through. We're closing in on 1,000 episodes. We will finish 1,000 episodes next year. 1,000 times we've sat together and done this. So thank you all for that. It's been an amazing year for that. I hope you guys enjoy your Christmas. I hope you enjoy your time with your family. I hope you get all the things that you wanted for Christmas. I hope the people that love you express their love for you. I love you, and I'm going to express my love for you too. You guys have made this program what it is. It's a nice, small, tight-knit community. I want to get big and famous and have thousands of chat at some point too, but I like the fact that I can sit here and address everybody's comments one by one individually as well. I like having a small community of followers. I would be just as happy with both situations. So, thank you guys, and we will see you here after the Christmas holiday and after the New Year's holiday for probably a couple more streams around these 4 walls. And then, yes, the background is going to be changing early part of next year. Looking forward to that. So, take care, have a wonderful night, and let's throw some outro music up. So, I know, and I said it at the top of the show, I don't ask for this very much, or very often, because I do think it's kind of cringe to hear every single creator say, like, subscribe, slam that like button, comment, etc. But all those things do help out. If you do want to do that, we'll take this one gift for the year where I come back and say, come back and do these things. Thank you for chatting in the live chat. That is the biggest help from me to you, or from somebody who studied the algorithm. Every chat that you have done has been a help in getting us forward. Trust me, when Helix and Palm were going back and forth on Rumble, I could see the numbers rising very rapidly. We were being served out to the front page because of the chat. So you guys are awesome. Thanks so much. We're going to go and do some rating. I got to turn that music off here. K. Merkel is playing Mass Effect. I think that's going to be where we're going to go, because I like Mass Effect. And K. Merkel is fun. A bit of a bigger channel than I usually like to associate with, but because it's K. Merkel, and she's a lot of fun, we'll go over there. So let me get over into my channel on Twitch, because I was actually in somebody else's because of a past raid. But we'll be out of here. Thank you again. We will see you in January for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Definitely looking forward to that. Enjoy your Christmas. Enjoy your time with your family. Don't get too hammered unless you're drinking PWJJ wine or hard cider. And we will see you here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.